How to factorize two cubes? Let's say, for example, we have x cubed minus 8. The first thing that you do is to recognize if you have two cubes. So, but now, how do you see if a number is a cube? So this means if you put that number inside a cube root, it is going to give you a whole number. So now let's say, for example, we put now x cubed inside a cube root. So now the cube root here will cancel with the cube of the x. So therefore the answer that we have is just x. So now this x here is just a whole number. So now we move on to the second term, which is 8. So we're going to say, what is the cube root of 8? So if you put a cube root of 8 into your calculator, you will get 2. So therefore, we have 2 cubes. So to factorize 2 cubes, you open a smaller bracket and a bigger bracket. And then you write the cube roots of your cubes. So now this will give us x and 2. So we have x and 2. And then you keep the sign as it is. If it is plus there, you put the plus there. If it is minus, you put the minus. So you keep the sign as negative there. And then what you're going to write on this side here, you're going to do what? You're going to say now, you're going to square the first term. So the first term is x. So you're going to say x multiplied by x, which is x squared. So you square the first term. This is x squared. And the second thing that you're going to have here, you're going to get it by saying what? The first term multiplied by the second term. So we have x multiplying by negative 2. So that is going to give us what? That is going to give us negative 2x. And then when you put it into the brackets here, after you say x multiplied by negative 2x is giving you 2x. When you put it here, it must change the sign. So this is going to be positive 2x. So for the second term, you multiply the first term with the second term, and then you change the sign. So that is why it's positive there. And then lastly, you're just going to square the last term. So the last term is negative 2. So you're going to say, this, what is negative 2 squared? Negative 2 squared is going to give you positive 4. So that is how you factorize 2 cubes. So let's say, for example, we have the following problem. Please feel free to pause the video and try this on your own. Let's say we have x cubed plus 64. So the first thing that we do, we check if these two numbers, are they both the perfect cubes. So we're going to put them under what? Under cube root. So we're going to say the cube root of x is just going to be what? It's just going to be x. And then now the cube root of 64. Remember, you just punch that in your calculator. You just say the cube root of 64, and the answer that you get is 4. So therefore, 64 is what? Is a perfect cubed. So now, after you do that, you open your small bracket and your bigger bracket. And then you're just going to write your cubes. So you have what? You have x there and 4. And then remember what you do, you keep the sign as it is. So this is going to be positive here. And the next step, you do what? You square the first term. So the first term is x. You're going to say this is x squared. And then you're going to say x multiplied by 4. X multiplied by 4 is giving you positive x. And therefore, you change the sign of the answer. So that will be negative 4x. And then lastly, what you do, you just square the last term. So the last term is 4. So 4 squared is going to give you 16. And therefore, that is how you factorize that problem. So now let us look at the last question. Let's say, for example, we are having 27 minus m cubed. So the first thing that we do, we check if these two numbers are they perfect cubes. So you're going to put what? 27 into a cube root. So if you say cube root of 27, the answer that you get is 3. So 27 is a perfect cubed. So now you do the very same thing with m to say the cube root of m. This will cancel that, and therefore you have m. So both of them, they are 2 cubes. So you are going to do what? You're going to open a smaller bracket and a bigger bracket. And then you're going to write down the factors of your cubed. So now we have 3 and m. So you just put them as they are. So it's 3 and m. And then you keep the sign as it is, which is minus there. Then the next step is you square the first term. The first term is 3. So you're going to say 3 squared. So 3 squared is 9. And then secondly, you're going to say 3 multiplied by negative m. That is going to give you negative 3m. And then after you get the negative 3m, you change the sign. So the sign is going to be what? It's going to be positive 3m. And then lastly, you have what? You have negative m. So you're going to say negative m squared. That is going to give you what? M squared. And then that is how you would simplify your problem. Actually, you will factorize 2 cubes. Thank you very much.